Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa discuss expansion of bloc in ongoing summit in Johannesburg. The Nigerian Communications Commission says the ban on importation of whole-body SIM cards raked in more than 55 billion naira for local manufacturers. Plus, oil prices fall on weak economic data. Interest rate worry. The program is Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. The federal government's resilience in re-energizing socio-economic life of the people is the motive behind the disbursement of cash and green palliatives to states. While Nigerians continue to applaud the move, there are concerns on how the real beneficiaries will be reached, which stakeholders say will invariably determine the success of the intervention. Michael Olale examines criteria for disbursement and how government intention can be achieved.
It is close to 3 months since subsidy was finally removed on petrol, but the resultant effects are still visible in the daily economic lives of Nigerians. Desirous to change the predicament of the people, governments at all levels have initiated palliatives, with Lagos State prioritizing cost of transportation. Today, 36 states are 5 billion naira richer, courtesy of the federal government, and are expected to use the fund in minimizing the effect of subsidy removal on the people.
The extent of support and intervention government does will determine the extent of impacts and how to ameliorate and alleviate the situation.
The big question agitating minds of Lagosians is the criteria for disbursement, as they fear manipulation.
They can have a sincere committee that will go to the local government and look at what do they need. You can decide to put up a borehole with that money. People will not buy water, but they will drink from that water. It has impacted into their life.
Since impact is essential in testing the effectiveness of the interventions, stakeholders say moving steps ahead from creating stopgaps to meaningful, sustainable initiatives should be the priority.
Can we channel the same funds into creating empowering atmospheres for people, such that they cannot begin to create wealth themselves?
Financial experts also lauded the post-subsidy intervention of government in the area of distribution of grains, hoping persistence will eventually lead to price stabilization.
It will fight the price of commodity and it will bring it down. This is the time a kind of an agency should stand up to now be going about to monitor prices of commodity.
Although the disbursement of the post-subsidy intervention has commenced in some states, stakeholders called for sincerity of purpose in ensuring that the federal government's efforts becomes impactful as Nigerians navigate through life post-subsidy era.
Thank you, Michael. And moving on, BRICS, the emerging economies bloc comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are discussing the expansion of the bloc in the ongoing summit held in Sandton Convention Center in Johannesburg, South Africa. The summit, which began on Tuesday, has more than 70 dignitaries in attendance, including Vice President Kashim Shettima, who is representing the president. Talks about enlarging the bloc were the focus of the BRICS summit after issues on trade and business between member states were discussed. Recall that South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa had earlier expressed support for an expansion of the BRICS group of emerging market powers. However, the Prime Minister of India, Modi, said members of the bloc first need to establish the criteria and guidelines for accepting new members into the bloc before additional emerging economies are added to BRICS. The emerging economies that are likely to join BRICS when the modalities of adding new members are finalized include Nigeria, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Indonesia. Vice President Kashim Shettima says empowering MSMEs to boost Nigeria's economic growth is key focus for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He stated this while speaking with journalists during his tour of exhibition stands at the BRICS Trade Fair in South Africa. He believes that the growth of MSMEs will positively impact the economy by enabling individuals to support their families and contribute to the nation. While inspecting Nigeria's exhibitions at the fair, Shettima lauded the investment of Nigerians in South Africa. The Managing Director of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, NSIA, Aminu Umar Sadiq, says Nigeria is still in the need of more fertilizer for the country to be secured in food supply. The Managing Director stated this in a submission during an investigative hearing by the House Ad Hoc Committee. National Assembly correspondent Abdullah Aminu reports.
Financial Infrastructure Development Fund to the NSIA, the House Ad Hoc Committee seeks more explanation on other funds like the Abuja loot and how the agency released the sum of 144 billion naira in 2023 through an approval from the presidency. On the issues raised and the NSIA contribution in the production of fertilizer, the managing director says the authority has a mandate of creating companies and give waivers for a certain period.
We have developed and co-developed over 10 institutions and platforms to improve the financial market ecosystem. To name a few, we created a company called InfraCredit, a financial guarantor that motivates domestic capital from pension funds into the infrastructure sector.
The committee chairman requested additional information on the Kano Solar Power Project and detailed sources of funding, including recoveries and stabilization funds.
At the point that Nigeria is now, there is need for transparency and accountability from everybody in public office.
The committee resolved to invite the Auditor General of the Federation, Minister of Finance, and the Central Bank of Nigeria for further clarification to ensure transparency and accountability are adhered by the NSIA. From the National Assembly, Abdullahi Aminu.
Now, in November 2022, the National Bureau of Statistics, that is, the NBS, unveiled to the public the revision of the Nigerian Labor Force Survey methodology, following limitations noticed with the old methodology in computing the labor force. The revised methodology brought about significant changes to how labor market data is collected and analyzed. It defines employed people as individuals who are working for pay or profit and who worked for at least 1 hour in the last 7 days, and considers those working less than 40 hours per week and declaring themselves willing and available to work more as underemployed. It also properly captures subsistence, agriculture, and temporary absentees from work. These improvements, among others, captured in the revised computations will make Nigeria labor force data comparable with other countries. That is the belief of stakeholders, though. And also the latest labor force survey report, which covers the fourth quarter of 2022 and the first quarter of 2023, will be officially released to the public later today. But for now, we have Abiola Arusayin, Chief Statistician, Demography and Household Statistics Department of the National Bureau of Statistics from NBS, to give us an insight into the survey. Thank you for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Nigerians. Good morning, the moderator.
Good. To start with, first of all, what exactly is the Nigerian Labor Force Survey Report all about? Because I know it gives the employment and underemployment figures for the country. What else is additional?
Thank you very much. So the Labor Force Survey is a survey that gives us insight into the labor market statistics in Nigeria and globally. So beyond the popularly known unemployment rate and the employment rate in the country, there are so many other indicators that the labor survey is meant to produce. And with the significant changes in the methodology, now with the enhanced methodology, as a bureau, we have been able to add some other additional indicators in the labor market statistics for Nigeria, which includes the time-related unemployment, the time-related underemployment, labor force participation, the employed at work, and the employed absentee, that people that are temporarily absent, but they are still employed. Then we'll be able to come up with indicators on subsistence agriculture, which all these indicators that I'm mentioning, we are not able to capture them using the old methodology. But with the revised one, we'll be able to talk about the potential labor force. Then we'll be able to come up with the labor underutilization for the country, as well as the potential labor force. All these indicators were not captured in the old methodology. Thank you.
Okay, now we have a revision that has added some other indicators to it. For the average Nigerian out there, what is the relevance of this to policymakers, to economy, to increasing employment rate?
Thank you very much. So for us as a nation and globally, the ICLS see the need to review the methodology due to the limitation noticed in the old methodology. The old methodology, which we call the 13 ICLS adoption, actually came up since 1982. So that was why in 2018, they saw the need to actually revise this methodology. And that's why they came up with the 19th ICLS reviewed methodology, the enhanced one, which is what we have adopted. So going forward, using this methodology over time, because currently with this new methodology, Nigeria is now embarking on what we call a continuous data collection exercise. And using this continuous method of data collection, which means people are now on the field regularly every week collecting data on labor market statistics. So going forward, using this data, the policymaker, the researcher, and other people that are into policy, including the CSO, the NGOs, they will be able to use this data to understand the employment trend in Nigeria. Also going forward, this will help us to be able to know the seasonal effects and the seasonal changes in employment in the country. And by knowing this, it will help the policymaker to be able to plan in terms of where do we need to generate more employment? I'm talking about job creation now. Because by the time we are releasing our annual results, we will be seeing employment by sector, which is not in our quarterly reports. But we'll be seeing employment by sector, and this will help government to see in which sector do we need to create more jobs, which sector is doing well, and which sector do we need to improve on. It will also help the government to see the need to build capacity. And it will also help us at the long run to be able to calculate what we call seasonal adjustments in our employment statistics. So it has a lot to offer as a nation and even internationally and globally as a whole. Thank you.
Okay, talking about the global collaboration, I know the World Bank is involved, the International Labour Organization is also involved in all of the statistics. But these are figures, and this is on paper. In translating it to the jobs out there for more Nigerians and even non-Nigerians, how is the collaboration like? Talking about collaborating with the Ministry of Budget and National Planning to include this in the planning processes, in the budgeting processes, and also, do you have collaborations with the private sector? Job creation is not all about government thing. Where is the collaboration with the private sector, and how is it going?
Thank you very much. So as an NSO, we have collaboration with all the relevant stakeholders. And this includes the public and the private, as well as the beneficiary. Who are these beneficiary to start with? They are the supplier of data. Because without the public, we cannot even have this data. This data has been come about by what Nigerians, they have sacrificed their time and everything to tell us their true status when it comes to employment. So the first people I will talk about that we have collaborated with is the masses themselves, the Nigerian populace, because they are the one that has provided this information that we call, labor statistics data. It's coming from the private, it's coming from the public and everybody. By the time we have this data, apart from that, we have been organizing a kind of stakeholders workshop. I think the last one was last year, November, and with this we have invited we invited people from all facets, of all facets of life, which include the private and the public sector, the NSO, the NGOs, the dignitaries, other MDAs, and even private bodies in general. So with the data is always available for NSO to use. We always tell people something. MBS, our duty is to generate data and to make it available to the public. The data is there for everybody to use. So not just for governments. And for the development partners, to start with, the instruments that MBS is using to collect the labor force market-related data is being developed by ILO. And ILO, I mean the International Labour Organization.
Sure.
And Nigeria is a signatory to this body. So for acceptance is there. So the instrument is ILO instrument. That is the #1 collaboration because we are using the ILO instrument. But we have adopted it to suit the Nigeria contents. And secondly, World Bank, they are the major financier for this project. So we are working with World Bank. We are working with ILO currently on the labor force survey. And when it comes to other partners, for this, by the grace of God, we'll be launching the report today. And among the people that have been that has been invited includes the NSO, the CSO, the Labour Congress has been invited, the NECA, we have the TUC, we have other ministry, Ministry of Labour and Employment, National Planning. I want you to know that the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, they are our supervising ministry. So whatever MBS is doing, the minister is the one that is actually hosting this event indirectly. Because
great to know about these collaborations. And
thank you.
We hope to see fruits coming out of this. But not to preempt you, can you give us an insight into the report? What should we expect to see later on today?
Thank you very much. So I would like to state here categorically that the report that will be released today, any moment from now, in about, let's say, 2-3 hours from now. This is a quarterly report we have the Q4 2022 report as well as Q1 2023. At the end of the year, the national report will be coming up, which will be more detailed and will be disaggregated at the state level. But the report that will be launched today is being disaggregated at the national level. And some of the figures will be seen inside this report includes the employed population, meaning the people that are employed in the country among the working age population. By working age population, I mean persons 15 years and above. We'll be able to see the proportion of people that are being employed. We'll be able to see those that are informal, that have informal employment. We have not been generating this before. We will see the informal employment rates in Nigeria. We'll be able to see people that are involved in subsistence agriculture. We will also have what we call potential labor underutilization. We are reporting this for the very first time in Nigeria. People should expect information on labor underutilization, on labor force participation. We have so many information on labor force participation. Then we have information on potential labor force. These are the unavailable job seekers or the job seekers unavailable job seekers, and they are available, but they are not actually seeking for a job. But they are at the corridor, so at any moment, they will join the labor force. So we have a lot, and the most anticipated one, which is the unemployment rate for Q4 2022 and Q1 2023. But I would like to mention here that the most significant change that has really happened to the unemployment rate in Nigeria is the adoption of the 1-hour threshold. So this has brought about a drastic change in the employment statistics. and
Okay,
in unemployment
hope the
statistics.
unemployment figures are not scary. Hope they are not scary. And while you get to answer that, a quick one, skills gap has been an issue. Is this report also addressing such figures?
Okay, so thank you very much. So the report that will be released today is not really, so when it's got, the report that will be released today is not addressing the skills gap yet. But when you say scary, I can assure you that the data is not scary. But I would like to say categorically that the result that will be released today is in no way comparable to the old report, which was released in Q4 2020. The reason is this. In the old methodology, we have been using an hourly threshold of 1 to 20 hours as unemployed. It means if you are working in Nigeria with our old methodology and you did not work up to 20 hours in the last 7 days, we have been saying that you are not employed, which was the old methodology the ILO was using. You must have worked for at least 20 hours before we say you are employed. But with this new 1 hour threshold, this new threshold is now saying that if you have worked for at least, if you have been engaged in any economic activity in the last 7 days and you have spent at least minimum of 1 hour, now we are saying you are employed. So you can see the difference between 20 hours and 1 hour. So this has made us to accommodate more people into the employment status compared to what we used to have before.
So which is to say more Nigerians are better employed and not underemployed.
So
thank you very,
don't use the word better employed, but
okay.
employed.
But employed.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that observation. Thank you, Abiola Arosayin, Chief Statistician and Demography, for sharing your thoughts as we look forward to these figures released later in the day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be on the program this morning. Thank you very much.
Moving on, gold scales near 2-week peak as treasury yields retreat. Let's see how other commodities are trading around the world. The Nigerian Communications Commission says the ban on importation of whole-body SIM cards raked in more than 55 billion naira for local manufacturers. Umar Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman of NCC, who was represented by Ubali Maska, the Commission's Executive Commissioner Technical Services, disclosed that the second edition of the Nigerian Telecommunications Indigenous Content Expo in Lagos on Wednesday expressed commitment of the agency towards the drive of the federal government to place the economy on a sustainable pedestal through all the necessary policies being put in place. And our markets rose on Thursday with Hong Kong stocks fading regionally. Now we joined Nneka Oko for the market update at this point in time. Nneka, is over to you.
Thank you, Benny. Hello, and welcome to the Global Market Review. Asia Pacific markets rose on Thursday with Hong Kong stocks leading regional gains. The Hang Seng Index climbed 2.24%. The Shanghai Composite also gained 0.43%, while in Japan, the Nikkei 225 advanced 0.87%. In Europe, markets also climbed, tracking counterparts in Asia and the US as a pullback in US bond yields eased global borrowing costs. The DAX rose 0.99%, the FTSE gained 0.84%, while the French CAC advanced 1.21%. Stock futures in the U.S. ticked higher in early morning trade this Thursday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 0.18%. S&P 500 is also up 0.78%, while the Nasdaq Composite is gaining 1.8%. 0.38%. Stocks opened in positive territory in Africa, tracking global sentiment. South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 is currently leading at 0.77%, while Namibia's overall index is marginally positive. And that's Global Market Update. It's back to Benny.
Thank you very much, Nika. And moving on, oil prices slipped in early Asian trade on Thursday as weak manufacturing data in major economies outweighed optimism around a larger than expected drop in U.S. crude stocks. Markets are also looking for hints on the outlook for how long interest rates will remain at current levels ahead of a speech by Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell at a central bank symposium in Jackson Hole. Brent crude fell 27 cents to $82.94 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude dropped 31 cents to $78.58 a barrel. Well, this is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. Business Express returns tomorrow.